The morning sun glinted off the polished cars as Mei Lin pulled into the parking lot of Elite Motors dealership. She sighed as she turned off the engine of her faithful old Honda, which had finally broken down on her way to the grocery store earlier that day. The mechanic had called it. After 12 years of reliable service, the repair costs would be more than the car was worth. Mei straightened her simple cotton blouse and brushed some lint off her comfortable jeans. She hadn't planned on car shopping today, but with her husband Raj away in Singapore closing a big business deal, she figured she could at least start looking. No need to bother him with this when he was so busy. "I can handle this myself," she muttered, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup. Unlike many wealthy women, Mei preferred a simple life despite her husband's enormous success in the tech world. Most people had no idea she was married to the founder of Quantum Link Technologies, whose latest innovation had revolutionized cloud computing and made Raj one of the richest men in the country. Mei took a deep breath and stepped out of her car. The dealership loomed before her, all glass and chrome, with flags fluttering in the breeze and brand new luxury vehicles gleaming in the California sunshine. A young couple emerged from the front doors, excitedly jangling keys to their new purchase. Mei smiled at their happiness as she walked past them. The cool air conditioning hit her as she entered the showroom. Soft music played in the background while spotless cars sat on rotating platforms under perfect lighting. Everything screamed expensive, from the marble floors to the designer furniture in the waiting area. Mei felt a bit out of place, but reminded herself that she was here as a customer, just like anyone else. She wandered around for a few minutes, admiring a sensible mid-sized SUV that would be perfect for her volunteer work delivering meals to elderly folks. It was luxurious but not flashy, exactly what she wanted. "That's the new XR7. A voice said behind her. Mei turned to see an older woman in a neat gray suit. Her name tag read Helen. "It's beautiful," Mei replied. "Does it come in blue?" "It does," but Helen's smile faltered slightly as she took in Mei's casual appearance and lack of designer accessories. "It's our premium model. The starting price is $84,000. "I understand," Mei nodded. "I'd still like to learn more about it." Helen's expression shifted subtly. "Perhaps I could show you our more economical options. The compact models are this way." "Actually, I'm interested in this one," Mei said firmly. "Of course. Let me find someone who can assist you." Helen walked away quickly, whispering to a man in an expensive suit who glanced over at Mei with an appraising look. Mei continued examining the car, pretending not to notice how the salespeople were now gathering at the desk, occasionally looking her way. She could read their expressions clearly. They didn't see her as a serious customer. After waiting 15 minutes while other better-dressed customers who arrived after her were promptly assisted, Mei approached the reception desk. The man behind the computer barely looked up from his screen. "Excuse me," she said politely. "I've been waiting to speak with someone about the XR7. The receptionist, whose name tag read Paul, gave her a quick once-over. "All our sales consultants are with qualified buyers at the moment. If you'd like to take a seat in our waiting area, someone will be with you when they're available." He gestured toward a corner with comfortable chairs, but didn't offer any timeline. Mei noticed how he emphasized the word qualified. She knew what was happening but decided to play along. With quiet dignity, she nodded and took a seat in the waiting area, watching as the minutes ticked by and newer arrivals, people in business attire or designer clothes, were greeted warmly and shown around immediately. Little did they know who they were really dealing with. Mei Lin checked her watch. She had been waiting for almost an hour. The plush leather seat that had seemed so comfortable at first now felt like a prison. She watched as the fifth customer who had arrived after her was greeted with smiles and offered coffee or water before being whisked away to view vehicles. The showroom buzzed with activity, but somehow she had become invisible. A young couple dressed in designer clothes was now test driving the very SUV she had been looking at. Through the large windows, she could see them pulling back into the lot, their faces bright with excitement. Finally, Mei stood up and approached the reception desk again. "Excuse me, I've been waiting for quite some time now. Is there anyone available who could help me?" Paul glanced up with a flicker of annoyance. "Let me check," he said, making a show of looking around the busy showroom. He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Mr. Wilson, do you have a moment for a walk-in customer?" A tall man in his 40s with perfectly combed hair and an expensive suit appeared from an office door. He looked at May with an expression that was both dismissive and impatient. "I'm Greg Wilson, sales manager. How can I help you?" His tone suggested he didn't actually want to help her at all. "I've been waiting to speak with someone about the XR7, May explained politely. "I'm interested in purchasing a car today." Greg's eyes traveled from her simple shoes to her modest hairstyle, clearly making judgments with each inch of assessment. "The XR7 is our luxury line," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "Perhaps you might be more comfortable at the used car lot down the street. They have more accessible options." A warm flush crept up Mi's neck, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm interested in a new vehicle, not a used one. And I'd like to see the XR7, please." Greg exchanged a quick glance with Paul, a look that said volumes about what they thought of her chances of affording such a car. "Do you have financing pre-approved?" Greg asked with a smirk. "We don't do payment plans for everyone, you know. Our financing requires excellent credit and substantial income verification." The supple humiliation stung Mai deeply. She thought about mentioning her husband's name or their financial status, but stopped herself. Why should she have to prove herself to this man? "I won't need financing," she said quietly. Greg raised an eyebrow. "Cash purchase? For an $84,000 vehicle?" His disbelief was barely concealed. "Yes," May replied simply. A couple nearby overheard the conversation and glanced at her with curiosity. May felt her cheeks burn hotter. "Well," Greg said with a patronizing smile, "I suppose I could show you around, but I should warn you that these vehicles come with substantial insurance requirements and maintenance costs. The total cost of ownership is significantly higher than it might appear at first glance." Every word he spoke implied the same message. "You don't belong here. You can't afford this. You're wasting my time." "I understand," May said, swallowing her pride. "I'd still like to see it." Greg sighed dramatically. "Very well, follow me." As they walked through the showroom, Greg's attention was constantly divided, his eyes darting to more promising customers. When another sales associate approached with a question, Greg immediately engaged in conversation, leaving Mai standing awkwardly by herself next to a display vehicle. "Sorry about that," he said when he finally returned, not sounding sorry at all. "Now, as I was saying, this model has several premium features that justify its price point." His tone made it clear that he was simply going through the motions, expecting her to back out once she understood how expensive the car truly was. When he pointed out features, he barely explained them, rushing through the details as if his time was too valuable to waste on someone who clearly couldn't afford to buy. Mai listened quietly, her face a mask of calm despite the anger and humiliation bubbling inside her. She had faced prejudice before, but today it felt particularly sharp. Still, she wasn't one to make a scene. She simply nodded and continued to ask intelligent questions about the vehicle's performance, watching a surprise occasionally flickered across Greg's face when she demonstrated knowledge about engine specifications and safety features. "And how does this model compare to the European imports in terms of handling?" she asked. Greg stared at her for a moment, reassessing slightly. "You seem to know cars." "I do my research," May replied with a small smile. "Now, about that test drive?" "About that test drive?" May repeated when Greg didn't immediately respond. Greg cleared his throat. "Well, for high-value vehicles like the XR7, we typically require a credit check before test drives. It's dealership policy." He straightened his tie, not quite meeting her eyes. May glanced around the showroom. Just 10 feet away, another sales associate was handing keys to a young man in an expensive suit without any paperwork in sight. "Is that so?" Mai asked quietly. "It seems like that gentleman is going for a test drive without a credit check." Greg's smile tightened. "He's a repeat customer. We have his information on file." "I see," May replied, choosing not to argue further. "Well, I'd be happy to provide whatever information you need." "Of course." Greg guided her toward his office with noticeable reluctance. The small room was decorated with photos of Greg standing beside luxury cars and smiling with celebrities. He gestured for her to sit while he settled behind his large desk. So, he began, leaning back in his chair. While my assistant prepares the credit check paperwork, let's talk about what you're really looking for. The XR7 is quite a step up from. He paused, looking out the window at her old Honda, your current vehicle. May folded her hands in her lap. I like the safety features and the extra cargo space. Greg nodded without enthusiasm. The monthly payments would probably exceed your budget, even with a substantial down payment. The base model starts at $1,200 a month, and that's with excellent credit. As I mentioned, I won't need financing, May reminded him. Greg chuckled. Right. Well, even so, have you considered something more practical? The LX series is quite popular with, he hesitated, searching for the right words, people in your demographic. My demographic? May asked, raising an eyebrow. You know, Greg gestured vaguely at her simple outfit. Professional women who want reliability without the frills. May bit her tongue. She'd worked as a pediatric surgeon for 15 years before retiring to focus on charity work. Her demographic could easily afford any car in this showroom several times over. I'd still like to see the XR7, she insisted. Greg sighed heavily. Look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know when someone is wasting my time. Why don't you bring your husband in if you're serious about buying? Perhaps he can help you understand the financial commitment. The room seemed to drop several degrees in temperature. Mee's polite smile never wavered, but her eyes hardened. My husband is currently in Singapore. I make my own financial decisions, Mr. Wilson. Greg shrugged. All I'm saying is that this is a significant purchase. Most women prefer to have their husbands involved in these decisions. He stood up. Let me show you the LX models. You'll find them much more suitable. Despite her objections, Greg led her to a row of smaller, less expensive vehicles. His explanations became increasingly patronizing. When May asked about horsepower, he laughed. You don't need to worry about that. These cars are designed to be easy to drive, even for someone who doesn't understand automotive engineering. Each minute that passed brought another subtle insult. When May asked about the sound system in one model, Greg commented, this one has preset buttons that are very simple to use. No complicated menus to navigate. After 30 minutes of this treatment, May tried once more. I really would like to test drive the XR7. Greg checked his watch pointedly. I have another appointment arriving soon. If you're genuinely interested, you'll need to complete a credit application and income verification. He pulled out a thick stack of forms. We'll need proof of income, 3 months of bank statements and references. Once those are processed, which usually takes 3 to 5 business days, we can schedule a test drive. Is that standard procedure for all customers? May asked, watching as another couple was handed keys to a vehicle even more expensive than the one she was interested in. It is for the XR7, Greg replied firmly. May stood up slowly. I see. She reached for her phone. Would you excuse me for a moment? I need to make a call. Greg waved dismissively. Take your time. The credit applications are on the front desk when you're ready. And remember, the LX series might be more your speed. He turned and walked away without waiting for her response, already approaching a well-dressed couple who had just entered the showroom. Mai stepped outside into the sunshine, her hands trembling slightly as she dialed a number. She rarely pulled rank or used her husband's name and influence, but today she was going to make an exception. Mai stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun, took a deep breath, and dialed her husband's number. The phone rang several times before Raj answered. May? Is everything okay? Concern filled his voice. It was the middle of the night in Singapore, and she rarely called during his business trips, unless it was important. I'm sorry to wake you, May said quietly. I'm at Elite Motors. My car broke down this morning, and I thought I'd look for a replacement. And? Raj asked, instantly alert despite the hour. He knew his wife well enough to sense something was wrong. May hesitated. She had never been one to complain or use her husband's status to get special treatment. In their 15 years of marriage, she had always handled things on her own. They're not taking me seriously, she finally admitted. The sales manager keeps steering me toward cheaper cars and won't let me test drive the one I want without a credit check and income verification. He suggested I bring you in to help with the financial commitment. Silence hung on the line for a moment. Then Raj's voice came back, unusually stern. What's the name of the person you've been dealing with? Greg Wilson. He's the sales manager. And the dealership owner. Is he there? I don't know, May replied. I haven't seen anyone who looks like they might be in charge. Raj's keyboard clicked in the background. Found it. The owner's name is Victor Patel. He should be there. Their website says he's hands-on with the business. More typing. Put me on speaker, please. Raj, I don't want to make a scene, May protested softly. You won't be making a scene, Raj assured her. I will. May smiled despite herself. Her husband was typically the calmest person she knew, brilliant with computers but awkward with confrontation. Hearing the steel in his voice was rare. Okay, she said, walking back toward the showroom. Just be gentle. I still have to buy a car from these people. Not necessarily, Raj replied cryptically. May entered the showroom and spotted Greg chatting and laughing with the well-dressed couple. When he saw her returning, his smile dimmed visibly. May approached him with her phone held out. Mr. Wilson, my husband would like to speak with you. Greg's expression shifted to one of smug satisfaction. Ah, consulting with the financial decision-maker, I see. He took the phone with a condescending smile. This is Greg Wilson. How can I help you, sir? May watched as Greg's face transformed. First came confusion, then disbelief, followed quickly by recognition and fear. Mr. Chen, Raj Chen of Quantum Link Technologies. His voice had risen an octave. People nearby turned to look. Yes, sir. Yes, of course, I know who you are. The well-dressed couple stepped away as Greg began to sweat, his free hand tugged at his collar. No, sir. I had no idea Mrs. Chen was she didn't mention. He glanced at May with wide eyes. Yes, sir. I understand completely. By now, other sales associates had noticed the commotion. Paul from reception was staring open-mouthed. The owner? Yes, Mr. Patel is here today. I'll get him immediately. Greg covered the phone with his hand and hissed at Paul, Get Victor. Now, it's Raj Chen on the phone. Paul scrambled away as though his shoes were on fire. Greg turned back to the phone, his face pale. Mr. Chen, I want to personally apologize for any misunderstanding. Mrs. Chen has received nothing but our highest level of service. His voice trailed off as he listened to whatever Raj was saying. May could hear her husband's voice, unusually firm but not shouting. She couldn't make out the words, but the effect on Greg was dramatic. He seemed to shrink with each passing second. A distinguished older man in a tailored suit hurried across the showroom floor. I'm Victor Patel, he said to May with a puzzled expression. Is there a problem? Greg thrust the phone at his boss like it was burning his fingers. It's Raj Chen, he whispered urgently. The Raj Chen. Recognition dawned on Victor's face as he took the phone. Mr. Chen. What an unexpected pleasure. How can I help you today? May watched as Victor listened intently, his expression growing more serious by the second. The entire showroom had fallen silent, with every employee and customer watching the unfolding drama. I see, Victor said finally. I understand completely. Yes, she's right here. He looked at May with new eyes, respectful, perhaps a bit fearful. Mrs. Chen, your husband would like to speak with you again. May took back her phone. Hello. I've explained the situation, Raj said, his voice gentle again. Victor will personally assist you from now on. And May? Yes. Annika is on her way with my credentials. Buy whatever card you want. In fact, buy two if you like. May laughed softly. That won't be necessary. I love you, Raj said. Call me when you're done, and don't let them off easy. I won't, May promised. Go back to sleep. She ended the call and looked up to find Victor Patel watching her with an expression of profound respect and alarm. Mrs. Chen, Victor Patel said, his voice now dripping with respect, please accept my deepest apologies for any inconvenience you've experienced today. He shot a withering glance at Greg, who seemed to be trying to make himself invisible. Thank you, Mr. Patel, May replied calmly. I'd still like to test drive the XR7, if that's possible. Of course, immediately, Victor snapped his fingers at a nearby associate. Bring the blue XR7 to the front entrance right away. The one with all the premium packages. He turned back to May with a smile that seemed almost painful in its intensity. Would you like some refreshments while we prepare your test drive? Coffee, tea, perhaps some sparkling water? The same reception desk where May had been ignored for an hour suddenly produced a tray of beverages and snacks. The transformation was so dramatic it was almost comical. Water would be fine, May said, accepting a crystal glass from Paul, whose hands were visibly shaking. Victor guided her to the most comfortable seats in the waiting area, a far cry from the corner chair she'd been directed to earlier. Mrs. Chen, I want to personally assure you that Elite Motors values every customer. What happened today was completely unacceptable and does not reflect our standard practices. May took a sip of water. So you don't normally require credit checks before test drives? Victor's smile faltered. Well, for certain high-value vehicles, we do have protocols, but they're applied equally to all customers. I promise you, we never discriminate based on appearance or what you assume about someone's financial status. May finished for him. Victor nodded uncomfortably. Exactly. This situation is highly unusual, and I'll be conducting a full review of our customer service procedures. Before Mai could respond, the glass doors of the dealership swung open. A tall woman in an impeccable business suit strode in, drawing every eye in the room. Annika Patel, no relation to Victor, had been Rage's executive assistant for 8 years. She carried a sleek leather portfolio and moved with the confident efficiency of someone who managed the schedule of one of the world's busiest tech executives. Mrs. Chen, Annika said with a warm smile and a small bow of her head. Mr. Chen asked me to bring these to you. She handed over the portfolio, ignoring the stares from the dealership staff. May accepted it with a quiet thank you, Annika. She'd known the assistant would be coming, but hadn't expected her so quickly. Annika must have dropped everything and rushed over as soon as Rage called. Victor Patel was staring at the portfolio like it contained the secrets of the universe. In a way it did. May unzipped it and removed several items, laying them on the coffee table. First was the black card, the invitation-only credit card with no spending limit, reserved for the ultra-wealthy. Even Victor, who dealt with wealthy clients daily, had rarely seen one in person. Next came documentation of Quantum Link's corporate fleet purchases, dozens of luxury vehicles bought each year for executives and visiting dignitaries. My husband mentioned that Quantum Link is considering a fleet upgrade, May said casually. 100 vehicles for your American offices, I believe. Victor's eyes widened. 100 vehicles would be the largest single sale in the dealership's history. He licked his lips nervously. We would be honored to submit a proposal for such a prestigious contract. I'm sure you would, May replied. She looked directly at Greg, who was hovering anxiously nearby. Though I wonder if all your staff share your enthusiasm for serving Quantum Link's needs. Greg swallowed hard. Mrs. Chen, I want to personally apologize for my behavior. Had I known who you were. That's exactly the problem, isn't it? May interrupted gently. You shouldn't need to know who I am to treat me with respect. An uncomfortable silence fell over the showroom. The XR7 is ready for your test drive, Mrs. Chen, a young sales associate announced, breaking the tension. Victor clapped his hands together. Wonderful. I'll accompany you myself. May stood, leaving the portfolio and black card on the table in full view of everyone. That won't be necessary, Mr. Patel. I've already had quite the tour from Mr. Wilson. She smiled at Greg, whose face had gone pale again. I think you should continue to assist me. After all, we were discussing the vehicles. What was it? Real cost of ownership. Greg looked like he might faint. Victor seemed about to object, then thought better of it. Of course, Mrs. Chen. Whatever you prefer. As Mai walked toward the entrance with a thoroughly humbled Greg trailing behind her, she caught Annika's eye. The assistant gave her a small, approving nod. Outside, a gleaming blue XR7 waited, its engine purring softly in the afternoon sun. For the first time that day, someone opened the car door for May. Greg handed her the keys with trembling fingers. Mrs. Chen, he said in a strained voice, I truly am sorry. May took the keys. Good. Now let's see if this car is worth all the trouble. The XR7 drove like a dream. Meade guided it smoothly through the streets around the dealership, feeling the powerful engine respond to her lightest touch on the accelerator. Greg sat stiffly in the passenger seat, pointing out features in a voice that had lost all its earlier condescension. The adaptive cruise control can maintain a safe distance from the car ahead automatically, he explained, desperately trying to be helpful. And the lane-keeping system will gently correct your steering if you drift. Impressive, May said, expertly taking a corner. She had learned performance driving years ago, a surprise gift from Raj on their 5th anniversary. How's the safety rating? Top of its class, Greg replied quickly. 5 stars in every category. This model has 10 airbags and an advanced collision prevention system. As they drove, May noticed how Greg kept glancing at her, clearly trying to reconcile the unassuming woman he'd dismissed with the reality of who she actually was. She could almost see the calculations running through his head. How much commission he'd nearly lost, how close he'd come to insulting the wife of a man who could buy the entire dealership without blinking. When they returned to Elite Motors, the transformation was complete. The red carpet had been literally rolled out at the entrance. Victor Patel stood waiting with a small army of staff members, all smiling nervously. Mrs. Chen, how was your drive? Victor asked anxiously as she stepped out of the car. Very smooth, May replied. I like it. A visible wave of relief washed over the assembled staff. Victor beamed. Wonderful. Shall we discuss the paperwork in my private office? We've prepared some refreshments, and our finance team is standing by to process everything immediately. That would be fine, May said, handing the keys to an attendant who scrambled forward to take them. Victor's office was twice the size of Greg's, with awards lining the walls and photos of him with celebrities and politicians displayed prominently. A tray of gourmet pastries and a silver tea service had appeared on his desk. Mrs. Chen, please make yourself comfortable, Victor said, gesturing to a plush leather chair. We've taken the liberty of preparing the purchase agreement for the XR7 with every available upgrade package included, compliments of Elite Motors. May raised an eyebrow. Free upgrades. Absolutely. Victor nodded enthusiastically. It's the least we can do to express our appreciation for your business. We've also included our Platinum Service Package, free maintenance for 5 years. Greg, who had followed them into the office, chimed in eagerly. And I'd be happy to personally deliver the vehicle to your home once it's prepped. We can also arrange for your old car to be donated to charity if you'd like. May noticed how everyone now remembered her name and spoke to her with genuine, if somewhat fearful, respect. The same staff who had ignored her earlier now practically fell over themselves to be helpful. One associate had even run out to put a sunshade on her old Honda to protect the interior, Mrs. Chen. Before we proceed, Victor said, lowering his voice, I want to assure you that we've already addressed the unfortunate situation from earlier. He glanced meaningfully at Greg. There will be significant changes to our customer service protocols, and certain staff members will be undergoing comprehensive retraining. Greg looked down at his shoes, his face flushed with shame. Mee took a sip of the tea someone had poured for her. Actually, Mr. Patel, I'd like to speak about that. Victor tensed visibly, perhaps expecting a demand for Greg's termination or some other punishment. Of course, Mrs. Chen. What happened today wasn't just about me, May said quietly. I wonder how many other customers have been judged by their appearance or treated differently based on assumptions about their financial status. Victor shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I assure you, this is not our policy. Perhaps not officially, May replied, but it clearly happens. I was lucky. I could make one phone call and suddenly receive the royal treatment. Not everyone has that privilege. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Greg stared at his hands, unable to meet her eyes. You know, May continued, her voice gentle but firm, my husband and I were both raised in families where money was tight. Raj worked 3 jobs to put himself through college. I wore second-hand clothes growing up. We know what it's like to be judged by appearances. Victor nodded slowly, seeming to genuinely consider her words. I'd still like to buy the XR7, May said, but without the special treatment. Same price, same terms as anyone else would receive. She looked directly at Greg. And I'd like Mr. Wilson to handle the paperwork. Greg's head snapped up in surprise. Mrs. Chen, I can personally, Victor began. I insist, May said firmly. Everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes, don't they? As Greg nervously began preparing the standard purchase documents, May noticed a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The fear-based deference was evolving into something that looked more like genuine respect. As Greg processed her paperwork with newfound efficiency, May looked through the various options for her new XR7. Despite Victor's insistence on including every premium feature as a courtesy, she stayed true to her original plan. "I think I'll stick with the base model in blue," she said, surprising everyone in the room. "Just add the enhanced safety package and the upgraded sound system." "But Mrs. Chen," Victor protested gently, "with your husband's position, surely you'd prefer the executive package. It includes massage seats, premium leather, and the advanced entertainment system." May shook her head. "I prefer simplicity. This car meets my needs without excessive luxury." Greg looked up from the computer. "The total comes to $86,435 with your selected options and the destination fee." "That sounds fair," May said, reaching for the black card still sitting on the table. Victor cleared his throat. "Mrs. Chen, in light of today's situation, we'd like to offer a substantial discount. Say 20% off the sticker price." May considered this for a moment. "That's very generous, Mr. Patel, but I have a different proposal." She folded her hands neatly on the desk. "I'll pay the full price, but I'd like Elite Motors to make a matching donation to the Women's Leadership Foundation." Victor blinked in surprise. "A matching donation?" "Yes," May nodded. "They run programs helping women from disadvantaged backgrounds develop business skills and financial independence. I serve on their board." The room fell silent as Victor processed this unexpected request. "That would be $86,435 to charity?" Greg asked, his eyes wide. "Correct," May replied simply. "It's a tax-deductible donation, of course." Victor hesitated only briefly before extending his hand. "We'd be honored to support such a worthy cause, Mrs. Chen." As they shook hands, May noticed something had changed in Victor's expression. The fearful deference had been replaced by what looked like genuine respect. "Thank you," she said. "And one more thing. I'd like my old Honda donated to the foundation as well. They have a program that provides reliable transportation to women attending their job training courses." "Of course," Victor nodded. "We'll handle all the paperwork." While Greg finalized the transaction, Annika approached May. "Mr. Chen called to check on your progress," she said quietly. "He's pleased you found a suitable vehicle." "Tell him I'll call him on my way home," May replied with a smile. Within an hour, everything was complete. May's new XR7 had been detailed, fueled, and brought to the front entrance. A small crowd of employees had gathered to see her off, including several who had ignored her earlier. Greg handed her the keys with a humbled expression. "Mrs. Chen, I can't express how sorry I am for my behavior earlier." May accepted the keys. "Mr. Wilson, may I offer a piece of advice?" "Of course," he replied nervously. "The next person who walks through that door in jeans and a simple blouse might be a doctor, a lawyer, or yes, even the wife of a wealthy businessman. But even if she's none of those things, even if she's just someone who saved carefully to buy her dream car, she deserves the same respect you'd show anyone else." Greg nodded, his face flushed with embarrassment, but also something that looked like genuine understanding. "I won't forget this lesson." "See that you don't," May said kindly. She turned to Victor. "I expect to receive confirmation of your donation within the week." "Absolutely, Mrs. Chen. You have my word." As May drove away in her new car, she couldn't help but smile at the day's unexpected turn of events. She rarely used her husband's name or status to get special treatment. In fact, she usually went out of her way to avoid it. There was something refreshing about being judged on her own merits rather than her husband's wealth. 3 weeks later, Elite Motors held its first staff-wide customer service training, focusing on treating all customers with equal respect regardless of appearance or perceived wealth. Greg, much to his initial embarrassment, was asked to share his experience as a case study in making assumptions. The dealership also implemented a blind rotation system for customer assignments to prevent cherry-picking based on appearance. The following month, May attended the Women's Leadership Foundation Gala. When Victor Patel was introduced as a new major donor, she applauded along with everyone else. After his brief speech about the importance of supporting women's financial independence, he came directly to her table. "Mrs. Chen," he said warmly, "I wanted to thank you. That day at the dealership, it changed how we do business." "I'm glad to hear it," May replied. "And there's more good news," Victor added. "Your husband's company did select us for their fleet contract, but with an interesting condition, that a portion of the proceeds go toward funding apprenticeships for women in automotive sales and repair." May smiled. That had been Rage's idea. Her husband might be quiet and focused on technology, but he never missed an opportunity to support her causes. When Raj returned from Singapore the following weekend, he admired her new car with genuine interest. "It suits you perfectly," he said, "practical but still elegant." "Just like me?" Mai asked with a laugh. "Exactly like you," Raj replied, kissing her cheek. "Although you forgot one word." "What's that?" "Formidable," he grinned. "The dealership owner called me personally to tell me how you handled everything." He seemed quite impressed. May shrugged modestly. "I just treated people the way I wish they had treated me from the beginning." "And that," Raj said, "is exactly why you're extraordinary, with or without my black card."